Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Going to give you a little tour of what I'm driving right now, which is my 2007 F350 regular cab, long bed, four-wheel drive. I call Project Blanco. So I've got a soft spot for these um, contractor grade pickups, if you will. So very low option set, not a lot of frills. I really like this package of the regular cab with the 8-foot bed and four-wheel drive. I like the heavier 3/4 1-ton trucks. Yeah, so this one is a little bit of a unicorn, if you will. At least I felt that way when I was looking to buy one. I was trying to replace my. I had before this truck. I had a 1992 Dodge W250, diesel Cummins, and did a build on that, and probably took it a little too far. But that truck was pretty wore out when I got it. But I still got 8-9 years out of it. So anyways, moving on. When I sold that truck, I was looking for something comparable, but I wanted something that was newer. That truck, the Dodge, just about wore itself out, and I got tired of having to fix everything. So I wanted something newer, and I ended up settling on this sweet spot, I'll call it, of these 2005 to 2007 Ford pickups. And so I did that because I ended up going with a gas engine instead of diesel. That was half the price or less to get the gas. And for me and my life at this point, I think the gas engine is just fine. Low maintenance cost, low oil change cost, all that stuff is pretty easy. So this one, though, is the V10, the 3-valve version. So it's about, I think, 350 horsepower, a little over 400 foot-pounds of torque. Didn't have to do anything to it. It's there. It works. The only modification in the engine compartment that I made so far that I can remember right now, nope, the only one, I did retrofit a Donaldson severe duty power core style air filter from an earlier version of this truck that had the Power Stroke diesel. So that filter is massive for a gas truck, even a big gas engine like the V10. But I absolutely love those filters, and honestly, I think in this truck that filter will be a lifetime filter. I do check it, but it does have one of those vacuum filter minder meters on it, which is something you don't see on gas motors too much. But other than that, it is just a stock V10. This truck does have a manual transmission, so it's the ZF6 manual transmission. A bit of a unicorn, a little harder to find, but absolutely, I honestly would have bought either, but the manual is, it's got that cool factor. It is fun to drive. It does feel more rugged. It is more simple. And the gearing on the ZF6 is pretty good. No real big jumps between anything. My only complaint probably is the having to go the double spring cross gate from basically low to first is pretty hard on the move. Other than that, I really like this transmission. This truck does have 168,700 something miles on it right now. And so the transmission does have a little quirks when you try to shift it too fast. But for what I paid for the truck and how reliable it's been great. And this does have the lever shift transfer case. I really like having that versus, say, an electronic transfer case. That positive, old-fashioned, if you will, lever shift from two-wheel drive to four high in the winter is just right there, and it's got that firm positive feel, tactile. It's in. You're not questioning whether or not the computer decided if you could put it in or not. This truck also has just the basic manual hubs, not the auto locking hubs. So usually in the winter I just leave the hubs in and just toggle four-wheel drive in when I need it. This is an F350, so it's got heavy axles in it. This is an 05 or newer, so it's got the big Ford 60 front, and then a 10.5 Ford rear, full float rear, of course, rear disc brakes. Can't really complain about any of that stuff. It's all stock. It's all pretty easy. The only thing that I probably will upgrade at one point in time, this truck was early enough that it didn't come with the larger 1550 U-joints. It still has the smaller old style 1480, but if I have to do front U-joints at any point in time or get into the axle any further, I'll just swap in the later model shafts. That's pretty direct. The 05 to 07 trucks are the first with the coil, front suspension, so that I think rides a little bit better than the old 99 to 04 stuff. And beyond that, it is this truck was optioned with the factory optioned with the 410 gears and rear limited slip differential. With this engine, I think that's a really good combo. I won't say this thing pulls, has a complete excess of power. The V10 definitely, even though it has over 400 foot-pounds, is does take a little bit of revs, especially when you're towing. You kind of get into that 3,000 up hills. You're dropping from 6th to 5th, and then on big hills to 4th. So that was about. I think I don't regret having the 410s at all. Honestly, I'd like to try it with the 430s. That was another option from the factory, but I think for what it is, it's a very good combination. This is a very low option truck, so it's an XL. It has the vinyl floors. Still, it does have the cloth bench seat. I do wish it had the 40-20-40 seat in it with the factory flip up down center console. I added a armrest on the bench seat, like a little center console thing with an armrest. I've got a shoulder that likes to fall out of joint if my arm just hangs for too long, so added that. And if maybe someday I'll find a really nice 40-20-40 suite and I can swap that in. Other than that, it's just a very clean, basic truck. It has the just a regular AM/FM stereo, just door speakers, no speakers behind the seat or whatever. It has air conditioning, which I am thankful for. It is just the very simple version of air conditioning, no auto temperature control or anything like that. It does have cruise control, which for me is almost a necessity these days. Again, old firefighter injuries. I've got a knee that doesn't like to stay in one position for very long, so I like having the cruise control. But beyond that, the only real modifications to this truck, so I mentioned the Donaldson air filter, and then I have I did do a 5-star tune package on this. The main reason behind that was I found the stock drive-by-wire throttle pedal logic from the factory was really mushy and not very responsive, and so I got their tune package, and one of the things they do in that is they change from like a torque-based management system to a more responsive pedal, and I really liked that, and so that was modification. And then the other, I guess the big modification is I have a Flippac camper shell on this. So that is a fiberglass, I would say large on the plus size camper shell that has a built-in tent that extends when you open it over the cabin or over the cab and the hood of the truck, and that just gives a massive amount of space when that is open for camping. There is a full-size bed over the cab, full standing height in the bed. For me, that was just completely different than what I was used to, having that kind of space for kind of more home base operations at this time, if you will. Like I'll tow my flat fender or the LX45 to Moab or something like that, and I can stay in the truck then and use it as kind of the home base, if you will, or base camp. Base camp's probably a better word. Base camp. And but like now I'm headed down to Overland Expo and be camping out of it for 3 or 4 days. It's just a tremendous amount of space volume in a regular cab truck, and when it's closed it just looks like a slightly high top camper shell. So for me that was just this time the perfect system, if you will. I can still use this as a truck, fit things in the back. I don't have anything like permanently built in the back as far as like cabinets or anything like that. So I just put in I just take like plastic totes essentially with me for bigger trips and kind of use that as my system. And I guess the only other modification in the bed of the truck was I did end up putting in a heavy duty like rubber floor mat after I did the Flippac, because that really makes the floor a lot nicer to walk on in the morning versus cold steel. Makes it a little bit quieter. I don't think it makes it any warmer per se, like keeping it temperature warm, but I'm sure say walking on rubber versus cold metal is in the mornings is different till you get your slippers on or whatever. Other than that, this truck is probably one of the most stock vehicles I have. It has factory was a 285 70/18 tire, and I run the Milestar XT, Patagonia XT, which is their all season, all terrain tire, which I've really liked on this truck. I think I've had them on here for 3 seasons now, or 3 years, if you will. I kind of go by seasons with truck tires because I notice they eventually get once you get past about half tread, the wintertime performance starts to taper off. And so these though have been were very, very good the first and second season. I know I started to notice a little bit of difference on the third year, and now they're approaching half tread, and I'll probably replace them and put a fresh set on. But I don't honestly think I would do anything different at this point, as far as like, there's a part of me that wants to like lift this and put 40s on it, or not lift it and put 40s on it, or something crazy like that. But I think I'll keep this one pretty stock. It works well that way. It does a lot of different things. I can jump in it. I can go pick up something. I can go to Overland Expo for 3 or 4 days. I can go camping. I can go, I can tow one of my fun toys over to Moab. So it just does a lot of things like that well. Trying to think if there's any other or last minute modifications, things that I did put a I don't, it's kind of a work in progress, but I did add a front receiver hitch. In the grand plan, eventually I wouldn't mind having a small winch, like a short drum winch for this, but I did add the front receiver hitch. Other than that, it's just a good truck. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do, but I really enjoy it. It's been very reliable. I've done very minimal things to it. I've replaced, I think I did a front axle side end to the panhard bar, like it's a little joint that presses in the axle. I did that. I've done, a little bit of steering stuff here and there, gotten alignment. I did have one brake on the passenger side rear that was must have got packed full of mud from the previous owners or something, and it kind of rotted out the backing plate, and replaced all that, got that back to new. I will say the one thing I don't like about, or the one thing on this truck that's never really worked great, is the emergency brake. I think that's kind of known in these trucks, but I don't really like that. Doesn't work very well at all, no matter how much I play with the adjustments or whatever. It doesn't work. I did replace all the shocks with just a basic set of Bilstein 5100s. It was an improvement over stock, but nothing, crazy. But it was a simple afternoon bolt-on, very, very easy. And the kit that I bought, I think, also came with, or I got the front steering stabilizer at the same time, and that did make a difference, I think, over the worn-out stock one. These things do have a little bit of touchy steering, I think, but I do like that this truck has a 36-gallon fuel tank from the factory. That gives it, even with the V10 and, not great mileage. It does get better than most people think, but the 36-gallon tank will give it, at least with what I tow and all that stuff, will give it a 300-mile range, even towing. And if you're not towing, it seems to push almost 500 miles. So for me, that's perfectly fine. Of course, I wish it was bigger. If it had dual tanks, or I wouldn't mind putting a Ford Excursion tank behind the rear axle, something like that. I mean, then that'd be another like 40 gallons. So, I mean, that would be kind of silly, but that would be a fun project sometime on this. I did find that one thing that was kind of a must, or that was a must do for a modification, was the factory headlights. This is an XL model. It has the square, I think 6x8, 5x7 headlights. They were sealed beam from the factory, and they were terrible. So I mean, it just terrible. So I added a relay sub harness for the headlights, and then I changed the glass to Hella H4, which I think is probably the best beam pattern available. I believe these are the Euro spec glass. And then I did, because I had the external relay harness for the high and low, I could run a higher wattage bulb, and I'm running a Hella bulb that's, I believe, 55 watts on low beams, and that low beam pattern is quite good, and I would say the low beams are as good as the high beams used to be, if not better. And then I have 100-watt high beams, and those are phenomenal. They reach far enough out there you can see eyes of game in the, quite far away, and they're not. I have a problem with modern LED headlights and how white the light is, and so I really do like this slightly softer, I believe it's 3600 or 3800 Kelvin light profile that these headlights have now. So overall, that was a great modification on this truck, and I don't even know if I'd call it a modification other than just fixing what the factory didn't do right. I also 3D printed a phone mount adapter that, since this is a lever shift transfer case, there's this where the electric shift transfer case knob would go on the dash. There's a blank there, and so I was able to 3D print an adapter that attaches to that blank with 3M VHB foam tape, and then I used a aluminum, like, mountain bike style phone mount that mounts to my adapter, and that puts the phone right next to the gear shifter. I can see it for navigation and things like that. Overall, I didn't want to change the stereo to something modern yet. I just needed something that was going to do, a little bit of convenience, and for me that phone mount is just fine, and that's a good balance, and everything ends up in the right spot, and it didn't require I didn't have to take anything apart even to do it. I do run also a FM USB adapter, so I can Bluetooth my phone to the radio adapter, and then I can broadcast that through the stereo. The USB radio adapter also has a built-in card player, so I've loaded up a bunch of music on a micro SD card, and that can play through the stereo for when I don't have AM FM reception or anything worth listening to, which is surprisingly often, but living out in the West, we get some broad spaces and stuff, so I like having that. And then I can answer and take phone calls in that, and that's a really simple, it just plugs right into the cigarette lighter. It also provides the charging cord for my phone when it's in the cradle. Other than that, thanks for checking out this truck with me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like content like this, please leave a thumbs up. If you have any questions, drop a comment below, and if you like this channel, hit the subscribe button, and if you want to get notified when we release or when I release new videos, hit the bell. So thanks again for following along, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.